What's going on, guys? It's your boy Anthony alongside the best Big Three account in the universe, Big 3 News, aka Will, back with another edition of the Fourth Man, coming to you after the conclusion of week one in the Big Three, season four, this past weekend. Rolls off the tongue so nicely because I can't believe we're finally having this episode. Seems so wild. Week one just concluded, had some great games, saw some great debuts. We're going to get into all the week one action here and get into a little bit of overreaction. We're recording this on Monday, so a little bit of overreaction Monday
Overreaction Monday.
into each team because there were some pretty big surprises, and I'm sure people will get a little antsy about their teams based on how they did. I feel like we have a little bit more of allegiances here, but first and foremost, my guy, Will, the grind father of the Big Three. What's good?
I mean, listen, it was a great weekend, and I'm just so happy that we're finally, recapping games. Like I was watching Big Three games on my television. I was like, oh my god, like I can't believe
Didn't
that,
feel
like
real.
that it didn't feel real. Like they're not replays or highlights. I was like, finally, like we don't have to keep on playing the same like Nate Robinson and Joe Johnson highlights. Like there's finally like new stuff. So it makes our lives a lot easier. But I will just say this. Let me just come out and say this. Last episode we made some picks. We made some, who I don't want this episode. This episode will not turn into "I told you so" episode, Anthony. This episode, this isn't gonna be me just basically saying how correct I was. I mean,
Wow.
5-1 on the day.
The shade. Wow.
You were what? 2-4?
I was 2-4.
I mean, that is kind of impressive in its own right.
We'll just say, hopefully, for everybody out there, it's an overreaction for you guys to think that I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, I was getting my feet wet. I had to have a little bit of conflict in the show, going against Will. Had to have some. Right. Can't agree on every single pick.
But you picked first.
Shit. Yeah, well, maybe I just had a little bit of bias on some players. Maybe I was feeling a couple teams. Okay, it was just 1 week. Overreaction Monday. All right.
What's so funny too about that is, and again, this isn't going to turn into an "I told you so" episode. That's the last thing.
Hey, you did great. I need to give credit where credit is due.
I know, just know you. Those picks were meticulously, like I'm sure you were watching film, going over rosters, and you're like, I think I got this team. I think I got this team. No disrespect to this podcast, but I rolled up and you're like, "Oh, well, who you got? Enemies or power?" And I was like, I'll go with power.
You know what? What I learned over the weekend is that when you have a gut feeling and it has to do with the Big Three, you go with it.
You gotta go with your gut feeling.
You go with it. When there's a certain coach that's heading your team or a player that continues to do it season after season, you go with it. There's not going to be too many newcomers that come in and set the tone, because experience is everything in the Big Three, more than people know it. And we saw it, and we're going to get into all of that week one action here. Before we do all of that, if you want to find our socials, it's at Fourth Man Pod. Broke my phone. At Fourth Man Pod. At Big3 News. At A_Siggy. If you want to watch the show on YouTube and see it visually, it's youtube.com/fourthmanpod. And if you are listening on Dash Radio and getting your Big 3-6 on the Big 3-6, wow, no, not Big 3-6, Big 3-6 games, 6 games.
That was a movie.
But if you're getting your Big Three fix on this Saturday afternoon, whether you're a first-time listener or you continue to listen every Saturday on Dash Radio and the Nothing But Net channel, we appreciate you guys as always. All right, let's jump into the week one games. We'll just go in chronological order, and then I'll ask you your overreaction for each side. They can be positive, They can be negative.
Got it.
I think there's a lot more positives to take away, first and foremost being that there was a Big Three game. But let's just talk about the first game. Power and Enemies playing on the brand new court, by the way. We need to just touch on the court real quick. The court looked great. The black and red
did look great.
Was really fitting for not only the Big Three as a brand, but also for 3-on-3 basketball. But, I had Enemies. You had Power. The game at first looked like it was going to be one of those that just didn't set the tone right for the Big Three. It looked like Power was going to kind of come in and do what they did in season 3 when they when they took care of business against Three's company. Enemies found their groove a little bit. Ultimately, they only lost by 5 points, 51-46. But what'd you see from this game, Will?
Is this my overreaction?
No, we'll give our overreactions after we
Okay.
kind of give our takeaways of the game.
I would say takeaways, Power is just a well-coached team. Coutinho, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Coutinho kind of did this last season. He started out very strong.
He dropped 28 last season.
Right.
Or
I
in
feel
2019.
and I feel like Coutinho is sort of that, and it'll be interesting to see if he, from a, because Royce White, I think, said it after the post game. He said Coutinho isn't 100% there from a fit standpoint. So it'll be interested to see if Coutinho can carry this into the season. But this is exactly the type of win that Power, I think, is going for, especially missing Glenn Davis. Coutinho's just going to come out. Coutinho's going to be your guy. Royce White did a good job distributing. Joe Alexander looks solid.
Yes.
Who else am I forgetting on this team?
Well, it was a little bit of a. I
Right,
should
it was
have
a little bit
mentioned
of like
that.
yeah, it was a little bit of
change
a.
up.
It was a little bit of like I feel like the replacements out there a little bit. I'm still I don't know.
We had Derek Byers out there. We had
Right, there you go,
Indo,
Derek
who was
Byers,
a little
yes.
bit of a new face. So a newer face and a familiar face when it came to Power that they added. Doosan Blue didn't make his debut yet. Big Baby Davis sat week 1 out. So
it
filled in
was
nicely.
It was hard to sort of get a grip on what this Power team's going to look like in the future. But I will say that their best players took care of business.
100%. And they had Nancy Lieberman heading the way, so really doesn't matter who you got out there. If
You're going to win more games than you lose with the players that they have and Nancy Lieberman as your coach.
Exactly. Got Coutinho as your captain out there and Nancy Lieberman as a head coach. You can usually bet on Power. Unfortunately, that's not the route I took. I decided to go with enemies. I felt good about the young core. I thought Swaggy P would make a little bit more of a difference. So Swaggy P's debut didn't go really as planned. He threw up a goose egg there. However, that being said, I like my Isaiah Austin MVP pick after week 1 because he looked dominant. He got it done down low. He stretched the floor. He went against good defenders like Royce White and newer defenders, that couldn't handle him either. It felt like anybody they threw at him, he was able to take care of business, and I really like that. I think enemies came out a little bit slower. I think we kind of saw this last year as well, where guys were trying to familiarize themselves a little bit and had a lot of new faces on enemy, obviously. So they came out a little bit slow, but once they got their groove, they were able to make it competitive. It was just too much Coutinho Mobley at the end of the day. I mean, he scored 26 points, hit 6 3-pointers, was hitting them over everybody from Elijah Stewart to Isaiah Austin. And I think the substitutions are going to, still trying to be figured out a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we didn't see Elijah Stewart in the first half. Comes out in the second half, hits a step back 3, scores 11 points in the second half. So very minimal Jordan Hill, kind of at the end of the first half, beginning of the second half. So I think they're still kind of figuring out some of these substitutions. I think I'd like to see more Swaggy P and Elijah Stewart on the court for enemies just because they play together in the Drew League. They're both USC Trojans. But overall, I'm not down on enemies. I still feel good about them, but just too much power at the end of the day. Want to make a note too. We did see our first 2 bring the fires, and they were both by Royce White, and he won both of them. So that was pretty cool to see. The champ is here. As Royce White
champ is here.
So he's the champion of bring the fire right now. And ultimately, enemies took the L. They dropped to 0-1. Power is now 1-0. What's your biggest overreaction for both Power and enemies?
My biggest overreaction is this. The better team lost.
Wow. That's a huge overreaction. Okay, so you liked what you saw from enemies.
I really liked what I saw from enemies. I think this is a team that I think has a ton of talent. You can see it. I think they didn't use Elijah Stewart correctly. Jordan Hill, we still really don't know what we're going to get from him. Nick Young is not going to be the type of player that puts up 0 points, consistently. I mean, he's currently playing in the Crew League and the Drew League, which I just realized rhymes. But and he's a consistent scorer in those leagues. So I don't know if it's him just getting used to the rule set or the physicality or if he was tired or what. But Nick Young, we know, isn't going to be as bad as he was week 1. And I think guys like Isaiah Austin, guys like Elijah Stewart, Isaiah Austin looked like an MVP candidate out there.
Yeah.
And that was his first game. Elijah Stewart looked like someone that can go in and hit threes consistently. I mean, 11 points in the second half has to be one of the higher point totals in a half for week 1. I mean, that's on pace for 22 points. It would have probably made him a top 5-7 scorer. So I think this is a team that is still figuring it out in a lot of ways. And once they get the rotation down, once they get the minutes down, I think enemies are going to be a good team.
I like it. Okay. I think my biggest takeaway from this game has to be that we saw the MVP and the fourth man of the year in this game. And I'm not talking about Isaiah Austin. I'm talking about Katina Mobley. I think he looks very healthy. He dropped 26 and his conditioning isn't even there yet. I mean, essentially Royce White said he took a little bit more of the scoring load toward the end of the game, made sure they closed it out. Katina Mobley and week 1 go together. It seems like peanut butter and jelly, but I think there's more to come from Coutinho. I think he's got a point to prove. I think he's trying to get power back to the playoffs and ultimately try to get to the championship without the help of Corey Maggette. I think he looks a lot healthier, to be honest. And then on the flip side, I think that Elijah Stewart, I think you just touched on him a lot. 11 points in the second half. He came right off the bench. I don't know if we see him in a starting role moving forward, but I wouldn't. I'd keep him as a fourth man. And I truly think that, we saw a couple of guys who are real young in this league make a name for themselves, give themselves or show why they deserve to be in this league. And I think Elijah Stewart has a good chance to be the fourth man of the year off week 1. So that's power and enemies. Let's move on to game 2, which was triplets and bivouac. A little bit more underwhelming than we expected, to be honest, because we really thought bivouac would come out with a point to prove, one, maybe a little bit of a revenge game from their week 3 in 2019. Also, we just thought they would just come and hit the champs in the mouth, but it was the other way around. The champs came and hit bivouac in the mouth. Ultimately, Joe Johnson and company could not be stopped. They won 51-39. They seemed to be in control the entire game. And Gennaro Barco looked really good, which is a little scary to see if he's got a Batman Robin tandem. But
he's pissed, man. He's pissed. This is his revenge tour. He just lost his coaching job in Portland.
Fair enough.
And this is his, screw it, bro. I don't got to worry about anything else. Only thing on my mind right now, I don't have to worry about keeping Dame happy. I don't have to worry about, where does CJ McCollum fit in our future? I'm just going to go out there and ball. And it looked like it.
Yeah, and not to mention, just take a couple moves from Dame while he's at it. He said he put on his social media post that one of the moves that Ball His Life, I guess, tagged him in that he did in the game. He was like, "Thanks, Damian Lillard," or "Add Dame Lillard," or whatever it was. So part of it got a point to prove. Clearly, what you like about triplets, and what surprised you the most about Bivouac?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree. Bivouac looks like a team that's still figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if we necessarily expected Bivouac to be a team that was still figuring it out. Mm-hmm. They brought in guys who had a lot of Big 3 experience. Reggie Theus, we both have confidence in as a coach. I'm not too sure. I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me, but anything significant from Will Bynum? I feel like he was kind of quiet this week.
Surprisingly, he was probably their biggest highlight. He dropped 23 points.
Oh, never mind then.
I think a lot of those points maybe came late when the game was in control, so maybe that's why it felt like that.
I just feel like, I guess just watching it, I didn't feel like he had as much of an impact as maybe, I'm used to, but 23 points is 23 points regardless. I don't know. They look like a team that still have to figure it out. I don't want to write them off immediately, but I will just say this, however you splice it, Bivouac is going to be a good team. And the fact that triplets are just going to come in here week 1 and just blow them out. I mean, I'm going to give my overreaction right now.
Yeah.
Are the triplets ruining Big 3 basketball?
Whoa.
And I say that, half-heartedly, like how everyone said, are the Warriors ruining the NBA? But right. I mean, the triplets I don't know if this is an overreaction, but I feel like the triplets are the best team in the Big 3, and it's not particularly close. I feel like we talk about power rankings. I feel like it's triplets 1 and then a pretty sizable gap. And then who cares about number 2? Because this is the triplet. This is Joe Johnson's league. This is the triplets league.
Yeah, no, wow. So you're comparing them to the Golden State Warriors right now. And hey, that's hard to argue because triplets, like I said, just came out and hit them in the mouth. They have a point to prove. They've been defending this title for 2+ years at this point now. And hey, they're not looking to let go of it anytime soon. And like I said, Pargo being just if Pargo plays the way he did week in and week out and is truly I guess the Robin of the team, that's a scary sight because we didn't see that from Pargo last year. Hey, we didn't even get to see Pargo in every game last year, and I think because a lot of that had to do with coaching duties. So scary sight to see. I was pretty disappointed by Bivouac because, like I said, I did think they would come out with a little bit more urgency. They did look like they had some things to figure out, but all in all, it just felt a little slow, like right out the gate. The three guys they brought in, Alonzo Gee, Julian Wright, and Mo Spates, combined 10 points. Just,
Yeah,
I
you
know
can't
it's
have
not
that.
all about points in the game. I felt like, they did maybe more of the dirty work or I guess some of the work that goes a little bit unwarranted or uncredited for. But Mo Spates dropped a goose egg. Another guy who I was surprised dropped 0 points in the game. And just felt like they had a hard time meshing together. So maybe they have some kinks to work out. I'm gonna go a
Looks
different
like
route.
it.
I'm
Okay.
a little concerned with our pick of Bivouac as a Bahamas team, and I'm gonna say that
Whoa.
is Bivouac one of the two worst teams in the league? That's
What?
that's my overreaction right now.
That's crazy.
I like I said, came out a little slow, got a little worried. I know it's just week one, but they came out a little bit stronger last year. Maybe it just felt like to me. It just I don't know. Didn't love it. My reaction is Bivouac, one of the worst two teams in the Big Three this season. We'll see.
That's crazy to
That'd be
me.
wild if they were, but like I said, right. First thing I saw out the gates. Okay, got the games on CBS covered. Let's move on to Trilogy and Killer Threes. Trilogy won this one 50-38 behind 28 points in Isaiah Briscoe's debut. Jarrett Jack also had a nice debut with 15 points himself, the captain, and good coaching debut for Steven Jackson ultimately. But the game was really the highlight of the game was Isaiah Briscoe dropping 28 points, 6 rebounds. Seems like he had a
Garrett
hard time
Jack did
getting
not have 37.
37,
You
15
didn't
points.
see that? You didn't see that?
No, I did not.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you off air.
Okay.
That was
Well,
that was something.
if Jared Jack had 37 in his first game and broke the record, that would be really something to write home about. But just seemed like Briscoe, the youngest guy in the league, airball is one of his first shots, and we're like, whoa, is this guy really who we like? This is not the guy we were expecting to come out.
We're like,
And
he's more of a defender.
yeah, or maybe he just needs to drive more, and he kept shooting, hit more threes. He seemed unstoppable. Killer Threes had a hard time, keeping up. I think really the only reason it was close for a long time was behind Dante Green's 26 points, who looked outstanding. And ultimately, what was your takeaway? I mean, like, I don't think we were high or low on Trilogy, but does this give you a different perspective and a different light on Trilogy moving forward?
It definitely does. I mean, I have to look and see where did I have Trilogy last week.
I think we both had them around the 6 range.
Let's see.
But you can check on that.
I'm trying to see. Oh, hang on. I think I posted it.
They look good, and they only play with a 4-man rotation. Let me just say that.
Yeah,
James
I
White
had
did
them.
not
I
play
had
in
them at
this.
5, so I had them right out of the playoffs.
Okay.
I mean, but if you're gonna have heavy hitters like that, like Briscoe and Jarrett Jack was just consistently good. James White is gonna make an impact regardless. Amir Johnson, you would like to see a little bit more from, but I think that'll come. I feel like especially with big men, it takes a little bit more of an adjustment period than maybe guards, just because of the physicality. But no, man, that looks like a good team. And Steven Jackson is a coach that knows what it takes to be successful in the Big Three. I mean, he was basically like co-coach of Killer Threes those last couple of years. So I think Trilogy is going to be a very good team, and maybe a team that we've been overlooking.
Maybe so. I think what impressed me the most, again, I know I just said it, but I'll restate it. 4-man rotation. I don't even think I realized, this is no knock on James White, I didn't even realize he wasn't out there because I was so impressed with the guards were doing.
Yeah.
But then I see James White tweet like, my team looks really good or something. And I was like, oh, what? He's not even playing? He's over here tweeting mid-game? And they did. And, they had lost Meta World Peace or Meta Santa for Artest, excuse me, name change there. And Quintel Woods came in and filled in nicely. But yeah, Trilogy looks really good. Isaiah Briscoe looks like someone he's going to be hard to stay in front of. On the flip side of things, I felt like Killer Threes, the continuity that we harped on so much that we thought was going to be a key cog to their success, getting back to the playoffs, didn't seem all there. Seemed like a lot of ISO ball, not a lot of team play. Defense seemed like an issue. Like I said, Dante Green had a hell of a game, putting up 26 points.
Dante looked great.
He needed help. The guys behind him scored a combined 12 points, to his 26, 4-4, 2-2. So I know that they didn't have Eddie Curry and Mo Charlo filled in, which shout out to Mo Charlo.
We love Mo Charlo. This is a pro Mo Charlo podcast.
Facts. And we were super excited to see him out there, but it just seemed like guys that we expect that all have Big 3 experience outside of Charlo, a team with continuity, just couldn't figure out what they needed to do best. They didn't know who should cover Briscoe, who should cover Jack.
Yeah.
They win a lot of ISO, and Dante was good at that, but I also just felt like he needed some help. 3-on-3 is a very tiring game. It's like boxing, you take so many jabs and you think you're making an impact, but at the same time, like that's just wearing you down. I felt
you just do leg kick after leg kick, eventually your ankle's gonna snap.
Exactly. So I felt like that was a lot of that from Killer Threes, and they dropped to 0-1. I wouldn't say I'm too concerned. I think I'm just more impressed with Trilogy. With that being said, what's your overreaction from this game?
Overreaction for this game is that they might have to start calling it the blessing of Meta World Peace. Trilogy will be the second team in a row to lose Meta World Peace before week 1 and make the championship.
Wow. I like that. And you know what I like about it most? You didn't know we were doing an overreaction. You came up with that on the spot. That's what I found really impressive, the impulsiveness and the able to reach back into the archives a little bit. That's so you think Trilogy's going all the way now?
That's my overreaction.
I mean, fair enough.
Maybe I'm just trying to get a rise out of people.
That would mean a triplets trilogy.
That's what I did just
trilogy
say. Yeah.
Championship. So that would be impressive for sure. I'm gonna say, and I guess I'm gonna kind of go the same direction a little bit with Trilogy, and say that Steven Jackson will be the first coach that was a player to win a championship as a coach before he did as a player.
The first ex-player to win a championship as a coach.
That's the better way to put it. I'm horrible at explaining things, but yeah, the first ex-player in the Big 3 to win it all.
And let me just say this before we move on. Our biggest issue with Killer Threes was, I feel like this was a car without an engine. How are you going to replace Steven Jackson? Because I feel like Steven Jackson in a game like that would have been a very stabilizing force, especially in a game like that. Someone who would be like, I'm going to go guard Briscoe, and then I'm going to go, give me the rock. I'm going to go score these next 8 points.
Right.
But they didn't have that this game. So, I trust that just with the Big 3 experience combined, they will probably be able to figure it out. But right now we said if this team has one weakness, it's missing a pure number 1 option. And it looked exactly like that.
Yeah. And I think as much as we talk about the bigs being a coveted piece in the draft, guard play is the most essential piece when it comes time for the season. And
the guards dominated this week.
The guards dominated on Trilogy side, but on the flip side for Killer Threes, I just felt like there was a lot they struggled with, whether it was scoring the basket or keeping people from scoring. So, I think we don't write off Killer Threes just yet, but you don't love what you saw. I think you more so love what you saw from Trilogy and
I think if anything,
impact.
It's more of a statement from Trilogy.
Yeah, that's true too. Okay, let's move on to Three-Headed Monsters in Tri-State. Three-Headed Monsters won 50-39. Another game that I took an L on that I thought I was going to be right about. And I think when it just comes down to it, I said at the beginning of the podcast, when guys have done it in the past and they've proved themselves in this league, you just stick with them. And, Three-Headed Monsters are the only team that brought back all 3 captains, and they looked rightly like that. Early on, it felt like Tri-State was kind of giving them a little bit of trouble, and then they regrouped and figured it out. The guys they drafted we had question marks about, we weren't really sure about. They look like they were the perfect draft pieces for them. Tri-State, I think. I'll talk about this a little bit more. But what were your thoughts about three-headed monsters and Tri-State? And do either of these teams look like they could make a trip to the Bahamas?
The short answer, no.
Okay.
Just because I feel like we saw probably 4 more impressive teams than either of those two.
Okay.
Three-headed monsters, I just think, they have the 3 best captains in the league. You have Rashard Lewis, who's been an MVP. He's been a consistent presence on both ends of the floor. Mahmoud, who's a walking absolute bucket, pleasure to watch. Mahmoud Roof. And Reggie Evans, who's the best big man in this league. So, it was interesting. We questioned their draft choices. I would say Kevin Murphy had a pretty solid game. Mamadou looks like he's going to be more of a not utility guy, but more of like a, in certain situations. We didn't really see him get too long of a leash in the first game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is a team who is they're just going to be a solid team, man. And maybe they float around 500. I don't know. This is a team. These are really 2 teams that I feel like I'm going to have a lot more to say about them after week 3 than now. Because as much as we say, oh, Trilogy won 50-38 and Three-Headed Monsters won 50-39, I didn't have that much expectations of Tri-State. I just feel like Three-Headed Monsters, it was a good team win, but it was definitely sloppy.
Fair.
And there were times where I just feel like I was like, watching this game and looking for highlights, and I was just like, I don't know. I just feel like there were long periods where just like nothing was happening. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about either of these teams except for, it was a good team win from Three-Headed Monsters, but if they want to make it to the playoffs, they got to straighten up some of the sloppiness.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we talked about it a little bit before we hopped on, but there were times, and maybe it's just the week 1 jitters or just getting back into the swing of things, but there were times where there were stretches in games that we saw some ugly stretches. I mean, ugly stretches and ugly sequences from teams. It would be, a team shoots a 3-pointer or passes up an open 3 and bricks it, hits off the backboard, and they block their shot. They run it back out, and the other team bricks it. And if we're going to talk about how, ugly stretches, I think the most times I saw that was in this game with Three-Headed Monsters and Tri-State. I think there were a lot of carelessness, a lot of turnovers. Maybe there was a lot of like guys getting familiar. Kevin Murphy did look really good. Earl Clark looked really good as the number 2 pick. I see why they took him because he looked really good. But, if we want to talk about a team that didn't seem like they were working together at all, I would think it's Tri-State. Tri-State had a little bit of trouble of, I don't know, the chemistry just didn't seem there at all. I did like
that was a brand new team. Besides Nate and Jay Rich, none of those guys have played together before in the Big 3.
Yeah.
So
and I have to say, I really did like Mamadou in the stretch and how they utilized him. I mean, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 2 blocks. They brought him in. He even shot a little bit jumper, which I think Earl Clark was like, I'll shoot one. I don't care. He's like, okay, yeah. I've been working on my shot. I got you. But yeah, I do feel like maybe it was a little bit of an ugly win. And that being said, I think my overreaction for this game has to be neither of these teams will finish at least 500.
Neither will finish 500.
Yeah, I was pretty high on Tri-State. Not so high on Three-Headed Monsters, despite them getting the win. I wasn't high on them coming into the season. I'm going to say at the best, one of these teams finishes 3-5. Maybe they both finish 3-5.
Okay.
What you got?
My overreaction is that I have no reaction to either of these teams.
I like it.
And that's just my, that might be the most damning thing I can say.
Fair.
Is that you went out there and I still don't know.
Well, hey, maybe this is one of those you just put a question mark on and you just move on to week 2 and then we'll see if anything changes. Right. So overall, Three-Headed Monsters is 1-0. Tri-State starts off 0-1. A part of me really just wants to see Tri-State win it because they got the man at coach who's got the damn trophy named after him. I mean, Dr. J Trophy. Dr. J's coaching Tri-State. Can we just win one? So it's like, oh, Dr. J's holding the Dr. J. Just would be, I think
Well, no, I'm sorry. Finish what you're gonna say.
I was
Sorry.
just gonna say, I think it could potentially be like funny. Like, I don't know if we can get some good memes out of it or some good wordplay out there for all the wordsmiths, but I want to see it. I think it'd just be cool in general.
Well, you know what's so funny, right? So, like, I had people over, like, as you know, and I had the Big 3 on the television. And I was kind of like, revolving door family would like come in. I had a lot of people over. And they were showing like, Gary Payton and George Gervin and all these coaches. But it's funny because I really don't come from a basketball household. Like it's not really like any like, besides me and my brothers and I guess like some of my cousins, it's not really as big as baseball and football. But when they showed Dr. J, everyone was like, "Oh, is that Dr. J?"
Wow.
Like, and like they were all like family members that I know really don't have that much of an interest in basketball. Like, probably couldn't name you a single player who's playing in the NBA Finals right now. We're like, "Oh my God!" Like, I remember Dr. J. Like, Dr. J was crazy. Like, oh, Dr. J was like, the way he would fly through the air and everything. So I just think, you talk about naming the trophy after him, and maybe somebody would say, "Oh, well, why would you name it after Dr. J after all the, name it the Ice Cube Trophy? Why Dr. J in particular?" The impact that Dr. J has had on basketball, I just, wanted to just like say that. It kind of like hit me during these first games. Like, he really was like at the level of like a Jordan or a LeBron, or like a Magic Johnson or a Larry Bird. Like, those guys grew up watching Dr. J and wanting to be Dr. J.
That's legendary. He wasn't just a guy that people knew in the basketball community. He's a guy that's known internationally.
Yeah.
Whether you're a basketball fan or not, whether you're a sports fan or not, which is maybe even a little bit more impressive. I don't know if you had some family over that didn't like sports, but I know for me personally, maybe someone like my mom or maybe someone like my aunt, they might not be the biggest sports fans, but you show Dr. J and they're like, "Oh, that's Dr. J. Yeah, we saw him all the time growing up." It's like, "Oh, really?" It's kind of the same impact for like Jordan or LeBron. You just see them everywhere, internationally known. It's really cool to see. I think that's a good point to point out there. And hopefully we'll see Tri-State at least make a push after that week one, though. We'll have to wait and see. So let's move on to maybe the most, I guess if you're a Big 3 fan, maybe the most exciting game of the week.
This was one of the more exciting games of the week.
Ball Hogs and Threes Company, and a historical moment here. Ball Hogs won 50-41 over Threes Company, and this is the first time ever that they are over 500. It's the first time ever they have a winning record, and that feels weird to say. And they're in the tops of the standings. They're one of the top 6 teams right now, maybe one of the top 4. I think it'd be like point differential. So I think maybe they had one of the, maybe not. I know there were some strong point differentials, but maybe they were in the top 4 there. But Ball Hogs, doesn't matter. Ball Hogs won a game in week 1 behind Leandro Barbosa, putting up 22 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Jody Meeks had 18 points, maybe one of the better backcourts in the league. I think this game was very well coached by Rick Barry. Threes Company gave him a little bit of fits, but I think what impressed me the most, I thought there was going to be a very Ball Hogs moment at the end when Pargo hits that 4 and makes it 41-40 Threes Company. I was like, oh no, here we go. Just the stigma can't leave, and they go on a 10-0 run and close out the game. Well, I mean, you've been watching the Big 3 as long as anybody. What did you love about this game? I mean, let me say this. Let me restate that, I should say. What did you love most about Ball Hogs winning in week 1 and being over 500?
These aren't your big brother's Ball Hogs. These are. When I was talking to Spencer Hawes on Instagram Live, I basically was like, one of the questions I asked him was, how do you take a team with such a bad record? Like, how do you turn that mojo around? And, he basically was like, oh, well, one winning season can change all that. But he really like, I kind of got like the attitude that he was kind of like, I'm just coming into this,
Yeah.
So like, that like there really is no mojo, like. And this really is like a brand new team. Like, none of these guys were there for the 1-9 seasons, the 2-6 seasons, besides Scal.
I was gonna say, let me restate it then. How do you feel about Scal his team being 1-0 after
well, of course,
the
I'm
first
happy
week and
for
over
Scal.
500?
I'm so happy for Scal. I'm so happy for Rick Barry.
Yeah.
And I'm just listen, bro. I feel like this is a team where I feel like this is like the Cleveland Browns with Baker. It's like a new swag.
Hey, one of your hot takes too was that they're going to be a 4-4 team at least.
At least
They're already a fourth of the way there.
they only have to win 3 more games out of 7.
I mean, I was impressed too. That's the thing. You're impressed how the way they won. I'm not saying that Ball Hogs teams in the past didn't have impressive showings, but this really does look like, I mean, from the players to the coaching style, just looks like a completely different team. You saw Ball Hogs throughout the game. Really, it was all centered around guard play. They were switching bigs early. They put Halls in. They put Will McDonald in. And last year, I just felt like they were feeding McDonald time and time and time again. And that was a strategy. There wasn't really much to it. He might kick it out every once in a while if he was being doubled. They took advantage of their opportunities, whether they were being doubled or there were turnovers. They would hit big shots. And
Barbosa's so good.
Barbosa's so good.
Barbosa's so good. Oh my
nobody,
god.
we were talking about, can anyone stay in front of Briscoe? Nobody can stay in front of Barbosa after week 1. I mean,
Barbosa is like a young. Do I dare say it? Barbosa is a young Mahmoud.
Wow. Hey, he literally looked like he was gliding to the basket sometimes.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't know what it is about these, and Mahmoud isn't international, but like I don't know about guys like Ginobili or like Tony Parker, like these international point guards that just come in. And I feel like the limited amount of guys that we've seen international in the Big 3, they all just like their games translate so well.
Yeah.
And Barbosa said after the game, this is the first time in my life I've ever played 3-on-3.
Oh, I didn't even think I heard that because I was going to say something off the post-game speech. John Sally was like, was this kind of like Brazil, you know, with the physical aspect of it? He's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear the part where he
said he was like, I'm brand new to this. Like, I've never played this type of basketball before. And then John Sally was like, oh, like fireball 3? He's like, no, like 3-on-3.
Just easy. He's like, what? Oh, I take it back and I shoot? Okay. I got to say, Jody Meeks looked really good. Shout out to Jody Meeks. We had him on the show too. And he wanted to come in and prove that he can still play.
Jody Meeks, I feel like, is an NBA player.
Right. But let me ask you this. Do they have the best backcourt in the league?
Being who? Meeks and Barbosa?
Yep. I mean, we talked about Briscoe and Jack for trilogy. That's what I'm almost compared it to. Maybe you even throw Joe Johnson and Pargo in there. I don't know.
If Joe Johnson is considered backcourt, I feel like you have to. I feel like you have to.
Let's say he's not, though.
Let's say he's more wing. I would say it's probably Royce and Coutinho is probably the best backcourt. Maybe Ricky and Mike Taylor is probably up there.
That's a good one too.
But Barbosa and Meeks definitely played like they were the best backcourt in the league. Yeah. I mean, they looked phenomenal.
I got to say the team ball too. If we're going to talk about...
They had like, I think it was like 21 points or 21 made baskets, whatever it was, on 17 assists.
Yep. Let's see. 5, 8, 11, 13. Oh, wait. Maybe I just counted that wrong because it just spazzed out on me a little bit. But yeah, about there. It's 11, 13, 14. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's nutty. I mean, I felt like a lot of teams, and a lot of those teams ended up not doing so well, but the best teams obviously played the best team basketball. But we want to talk about team basketball. Ball Hogs was the epitome of it week 1. They looked outstanding. Their chemistry seemed on point. And the funniest part is, like you said, that's a brand new Ball Hogs team, and they've been playing together forever. And Barbosa never even played 3-on-3. What
dude? I feel like I'm gonna fall in love with Barbosa by the end of the season.
Yeah, he looks so good. And, you know, 4 guys on their team had at least 2 or more assists. That's wild. That's a crazy stat. I don't think we ever see that.
That's what Rick Barry said. This is how I want to play.
Yeah, it is. He doesn't want to play that ISO ball. He's not a fan of that. He's really not. And
he wanted all moving, like FIBA style, like just a flow liquid offense. And that's exactly what he got.
I think he played his substitutions very well too.
Yeah. The rotations were great. Halls looked great. Mm-hmm. I just, that's just a team that I just like. I hate to even say this, but like, if that's a team that can just stay healthy, you know what I mean? I feel like What? No.
Overreaction
I'm
thing?
saying,
Okay.
like, knock on wood, if that's a team that, because Bullhogs had such crappy injury luck, if that's a team that you could just stay healthy, I feel like you have a good thing going here.
Yeah, I want to talk about Three's Company just a little bit before I say my overreaction. First and foremost, Pargo's the real deal. So I see why they took him at 10. We only saw 2 games of last year, so it was a small sample size, but real deal. He dropped 16 just like his brother. Do we have any concerns about Three's Company? I know that you talked to Dermar, you talked about you talked to Ryan Hollins, you talked to both of them. They were pretty upset with the power rankings and then being last, but how do we feel about them after 1 week?
I mean, I don't think they played like they were the worst team in the league, but they definitely didn't play like they, deserved to be in any playoff conversation yet.
Yeah.
They just seem, I mean, I like the way they use Ryan Hollins, if I'm being honest with you. I just don't know, man. They just seem like they're a team. I mean, Pargo, Ryan Hollins, Demar Johnson, Mario Chalmers. I don't know. I don't know. That's just a team. I still have a lot of question marks about that team if they want to be successful.
Yeah, after 1 week, I felt like there's maybe the synergy isn't right, or the makeup of the team doesn't seem like it's going to be the most successful moving forward. I don't know. Like we said, it's only 1 week. What I will say is they have more 4-pointers as a team than the whole league does. So that's pretty cool. They hit 3 on Saturday, which is pretty wild. Parker hit 2 of them.
We talk about who's the best backcourt in the league. I feel like if Three's Company is going to be successful, Chalmers and Pargo need to be the best backcourt in the league.
Yes, 100% on the same page with you there. And so we'll see how Three's Company can play next week. They play Killer 3, so a couple teams that have a point to prove. We'll get to that in a second.
That's a good matchup for them.
Yeah. My overreaction for this game is just going to be that Ball Hogs is a Bahamas team. I'm just overreacting, but after week 1, I'm on the same page as you. I mean, maybe 4-4. I can maybe see them having a winning record. I just like everything that this team did, not just on the court, but I continue to emphasize this because I think Rick Barry did a really good job of coaching this game. His rotations were great. He had a game plan and a style coming into it. And I feel like just, after watching all the games, he seemed the most prepared. The team seemed the most prepared coming into it.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Which is wild because they never seem like that. No. So that's my biggest.
That must have been one hell of a practice.
I can't imagine. That's my biggest overreaction, though. Their top 4 team after years and years of being at the bottom of the barrel.
My biggest overreaction is if triplets lose 1 game this year, it'll be the Ball Hogs.
Ooh, I like that. They had the biggest point differential last year. I think it was like 18 points. Triplets beat them by like 18 points in the last season.
So the best point differential this week was a tie between Trilogy and Triplets.
Oh, nice. Okay. That was only 12. So last year, Triplets beat Ball Hogs by 18, which is pretty rare. So that'd be pretty crazy to see the Triplets knocked off by Ball Hogs. But like we said, that's a new team. All right, last but certainly not least, the final game of the day, Ghost Ballers and Aliens. I really like this game because, one, I think we have formed somewhat good connections with some of the Ghost Ballers teams. We obviously have had Jordan on the show and on our live stream before, who is very well connected with Ghost Ballers as well. We've had Mike Taylor on, who we love. But I think the most thing that we were looking forward to about this Ghost Ballers squad was Chris Johnson. I mean, he just flew in from New Zealand, I think late in the weekend. We were excited about the tape we've been seeing him playing over in Auckland. And he came out and it didn't look like he has missed a beat. I mean, he went from 5-on-5 in a different country, jet lag, twin kids. It doesn't matter. Nothing's getting in the way of this man balling because he went off. Same with Mike Taylor. Mike Taylor had 20 points. Chris Johnson had 19. Aliens played a pretty good game, and it looks like Balkman might have been the right pick for him because he played really well. Ghost Ballers ultimately won 51-45. I got to say, I think Ghost Ballers is kind of just scratching the surface, but
I do agree with that. I actually was going to say one of the things I had for this game was I think that Ghost Ballers looked good, but they also looked like they were just getting started. Like there were definitely some things when you're like, oh, like they'll improve upon that. Like, by week 5, like, they're gonna figure that out. And they still played well. I don't know if it was because it was the last game of the day. I just feel like there was like a 10-minute span where just nobody could score. Where like I think it was like 49-45.
Yeah.
And I was like, could someone just score? Like, could someone just finish the game? But I just feel like, Ghost Ballers played very well. Aliens didn't look too bad either. I don't know. I think we watched 2 mid-table teams, and I don't think that's a knock against anybody. I just think, it'll be very interesting to see. I'm very interested to see Ghost Ballers against a team like Enemies.
Yeah.
Because I think if Enemies are who we think they are, they will go out and beat Ghost Ballers. Ghost Ballers have a very good opportunity to make a huge statement and start the season 2-0, beat Enemies, send Enemies 0-2. I mean, if you're Craig Smith, you have to be just, salivating at the opportunity to sort of, dig Enemies' hole deeper.
Well, not to mention, Craig Smith didn't really have his best game either, so I'm sure he just wants to get back on the court and improve his point that, one, he deserved to be a co-captain, but to do that against your former team, and that's what I kind of mean about scratching the surface. This does feel, Ghost Ballers kind of reminds me a little bit of the Nets in a way. A lot of offense and maybe not so much defense. But Mike Taylor and Chris Johnson, 20 and 19 points. We didn't really see like the best games from Craig Smith or Ricky Davis.
No.
Ryan Gadsden still kind of getting familiar. So imagine if they're all just contributing and, maybe all putting up 10 double-digit points, like those four dudes. Like
I don't know anything about Gadsden. Anyone who tells you anything about Gadsden is lying.
Yeah,
like he's a complete unknown.
Yeah, but you do have 2 of the top, or I guess 2 guys who have been in the top 5 of scoring in the Big 3 who just combined to put up 12 points and didn't have their best game.
That's what I mean. You have 4 guys on that team, and the reason why I'm isolating Gadsden is because I can't say that he is this guy because I just don't know what his play style is. But you have 4 guys on that team that could very easily any night drop 20+ points.
Right. Yeah.
Just a matter of just being consistent.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, Ghost Ballers really could be that sleeper team that you were touching on leading up to the season there. Flip side, like you said, Aliens didn't play too bad. Didn't think Brandon Rush had the best game. I think he's going to be the guy that's going to have to, if they're going to have any success, he's going to be the guy that's going to have to lead the way. Bachman had a really good game. 14 points, 14 rebounds, leading the league in rebounds right now. I think the other factor outside of Brandon Rush is it's got to be Greg Oden. And I think we talked about his conditioning being an issue, but I think the biggest problem might be the foul trouble. Because, in the Big 3, if you have 3 fouls in the first half, you have to sit for the entirety of it. And that happened in this game. I think they're going to have to try to figure out how to use, like, if they want to go big, they can use Oden and Balkman. And I think they were just kind of like playing with that a little bit. So maybe they're still trying to familiarize themselves with it. I think Andre Owens had a pretty good game. I think he's still got a big chip on his shoulder and something to prove. So we'll see how Aliens does moving forward. I did think that they were going to make a late comeback because, like you said, when it was like 49, 45, or even like 46, 42 or some weird score where it was like they needed 8 points or less, just felt like nobody was going to get to the finish line. It's like somebody just finished this game off. And
that's why I don't want to sing Ghost Ballers praises too much. And I also really don't want to be too down on Aliens because this seemed like might be the most evenly matched game of the night.
That's a good point. Yeah, I could see that too. So I guess really we're gonna see next week. We're really gonna find out more next week, and not just for these 2 teams, but for every team.
Yeah.
But Aliens playing against Ball Hogs, I guess we'll get to really see how good Ball Hogs is, and then on the flip side, Ghost Ballers and Enemies, we'll get to see a little bit more of the unknown there, or hopefully figure out a little bit more of the unknown.
Ball Hogs, if you're Ball Hogs, you have to win this game.
If Ball Hogs goes 2-0, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
That's what I mean.
I don't know.
This is the definition of a trap game.
Yeah.
You're riding high off 1-0. Aliens are coming in. Aliens, we're so close to a win. Definitely didn't play bad, but are not the equivalent of some other 0-1 teams. I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see.
Very interesting. Okay, I'm going to go with my quick overreaction here. These seem to be getting a little bit repetitive, but obviously it's only been 1 week. But I think that Mike Taylor and Chris Johnson, I know that I posted something where Ryan Hollins was pretty high on his tandem with Mario Chalmers again with Three's Company. I gotta say, I think Mike Taylor and Chris Johnson might be the best pick and roll duo, big, little in the league. They looked phenomenal. And they looked like they were well connected throughout the game. They were throwing lobs to each other. Taylor had 6 assists on the night, which is pretty impressive in a game that goes to 50. So I think they're the best pick and roll duo, big man, big guard duo, however you want to call it, in the league right now.
For me, I'm going to say this. Aliens will be the first team to make a personnel change. And by that, I mean a trade.
Oh, okay. Interesting. That do you feel like that more? I know it's just no reaction, but do you feel like that more because you don't feel like this team
I think it's
chemistry-wise
because
isn't
Rick
there,
Mahorn
or-
historically has been a coach that likes to make trades, especially if his teams are underperforming. And I feel like, losing this game to Ghost Ballers, I think Ball Hogs will probably win next week. So 0-2, I think a change might come.
This is Rick Mahorn's 3rd team in 4 years. Is this Rick Mahorn's last go around? I mean, I usually got to get this right almost, it seems like. So it's
That's
not
what I mean.
I don't even know if that's an overreaction. I think that's a very fine reaction, connecting the dots there. So anyways, that's how the week went. 51-45, Ghost Ballers over Aliens. Quickly, before we wrap up the show here, want to kind of just talk about our week 2. We'll just make our week 2 picks real quickly. Obviously there's still a lot of unknowns on the tables, but we got some good games next week. We also get to see these games split up a little bit more, so it doesn't feel like it's a 6-hour stretch. I guess 6 hours out of your day necessarily on a Saturday. We get to see 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, so a good breakup
That is
in
cool,
between. Yeah. On Saturday we got Trilogy 3-Headed Monsters, Power Triplets, Killer 3's Company. Give me your 3 picks for those, Will.
Hang on one moment. I'm sorry. I'm just bringing it up.
Gotta look at these games a little bit.
Okay, so Saturday we have 300 Monsters and Trilogy. You rapid fire it off. I'm going to take Trilogy.
Okay.
Triplets versus Power. That's a great game. I'm taking Triplets.
Mm-hmm.
Three's Company, Killer 3s. Give me Three's Company.
Ooh, okay. I also got Trilogy in that Trilogy 3-Headed Monsters game. Power Triplets. Triplets, the only team they haven't beaten is Power. I'm going to go with Power, though. I'm going to go Trilogy Power. And then, bless you. And
Thank you. I muted myself and I forgot also, I'm on camera.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm sure that whoever watches this will also have the similar sentiments as me. And for the Killer 3's Company game, I'm going to go with Killer 3s. I still have high hopes for Killer 3s moving forward. So Trilogy Power, Killer 3s for me. On Sunday, we got Enemies, Ghost Ballers, Tri-State, Bivouac, Ball Hogs, Aliens. Rapid fire, who you got?
I got that's a good one. I got Enemies.
Mm-hmm.
I think Enemies figure it out. I have Bivouac over Tri-State. I think Bivouac is going to be I think they were a team that was slated to play the best team week 1. So I think they're still a good team. So I think they're going to get Tri-State. And then final game, Aliens versus Ball Hogs. I've said it already. I got Ball Hogs.
Okay. I got the same 3, Enemies, Bivouac, and Ball Hogs as well. I think Enemies figures it out.
So is there what's the game that will decide next week? Is it the Three's Company Killer 3s?
And Power Triplets. I got Power over Triplets.
Oh, you have Power. Oh, okay. So we can tie next week. Okay.
The only team that Triplets hasn't figured out yet hasn't beaten, I guess I should say, is Power. So I know that was back in 2019, but maybe it's just Nancy Lieberman. Hey, I'm not going to doubt her 2 weeks in a row. If I'm wrong, I feel better about it this week. So that is our game picks for week 2. We appreciate everyone who tuned in. We'll say that I will be back. I'll be back at a Big 3 game. I'll be in Vegas for week 2 live. So I get to see these games live. Make sure you're following Fourth Man Pod to get live updates on both Twitter and Instagram. Maybe we'll do a little bit of we'll go live on IG and just kind of show you the pregame, postgame, to be in the press conference, be a little closer to these guys and really be a little bit more accurate on the reporting aspect. Will, as always, you can follow him at Big3 News. We appreciate everyone who has tuned in on your preferred podcast platform. If we'd appreciate you guys if you rated this 5-star, left a comment. Feedback is always well appreciated. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, give us a like. That helps with the algorithm there.
Absolutely.
And we
It's all about
appreciate
the algorithm, bro.
all about the
Triple A.
algorithm. It doesn't matter about content; it's just about the algorithm. So
Yes.
we're going to try to provide best content we can. That being said, but we need your help if you like what you see from a Big3 standpoint or the feedback and analysis and content that we provide. Like, subscribe, and comment. And then for those of you on Dash Radio, we appreciate you guys as always. We'll be back with you guys next week. We appreciate you guys, and we will see you next week.
See you later.